Have you ever seen it? You're standing on the shore at sunrise. You've got a graphite rod, a reel smoother than silk, and a tackle box filled with $20 lures that look like pieces of art. You make that perfect cast, and you wait, and you cast again. Nothing. Then you look over. There's an old-timer sitting on a rusty bucket. His gear looks like it's from the 1970s, and he's using a simple worm on a hook. And what's that? His rod is bent over. He's pulling in another one. How is this possible? Is it just luck? Or are we all being fooled by shiny plastic and clever marketing? In this video, we're going to expose the truth. We'll uncover exactly why that old man with a worm is consistently outfishing you. And I promise, the answer isn't what you think. It's a secret that could change the way you fish forever. Before we dive in, let me ask you this. Do you think gear makes the fisherman? Let me know your honest answer in the comments right now. I'm curious to see what you think. Look, we've all been there. You walk into a tackle shop and it's overwhelming. There are walls of lures in every color, shape, and size imaginable. They have names like Shadow Wrap and Mega Slayer. The packaging promises more bites, more aggressive strikes, and more fish in your boat. We're told that new technology is the key, that this specific wobble or this exact color pattern that mimics a distressed chartreuse minnow is the magic bullet we've been missing. We spend years accumulating this stuff, building an arsenal for every possible situation. It becomes a habit, a belief system. We think that if we just buy the next hot lure, our luck will change. We equate spending money with success. But this whole situation on the bank, with the old-timer and his worm, it throws a wrench in that entire belief system. It forces us to ask a very uncomfortable question. Have we been focusing on the wrong thing all along? Let's start with the most powerful and yet most overlooked factor of all, the scent. Imagine you're a fish. Your world is a murky soup of information, and your sense of smell is like a superpower. It's how you find food, avoid danger, and even navigate. Now, think about what a real live earthworm gives off. It's not just a smell, it's a complex chemical signal of protein, amino acids, and dirt. It's a scent trail that screams easy, natural meal. It leaks into the water, creating a cloud of pure, unadulterated food aroma that fish are genetically programmed to respond to. Your $20 plastic lure, on the other hand? Even with the best applied scent gel, it smells at its core like plastic. It smells like a factory. Fish are not stupid. They can detect these unnatural chemicals from a great distance. The old-timer isn't just throwing in a piece of bait. He's ringing a dinner bell that fish have been hearing and trusting for millions of years. You're just rattling a piece of plastic and hoping for the best. Now, let's talk about movement, or what the industry calls action. Lure companies spend millions of dollars trying to replicate the movement of a distressed baitfish. They create wobbles, shimmies, and dives, and some of them are incredibly realistic, I'll give them that. But they are all, without exception, a pattern. It's a repetitive mechanical action. A crankbait wobbles the same way on every single retrieve. A jerkbait has a predictable darting motion. A fish might be fooled once, but pressured fish, the big smart ones, learn these patterns. Now picture that worm again, impaled on a hook and struggling on the bottom. Its movement is chaotic. It's random. It twists, it stretches, it curls up. It is the very definition of a living creature in distress. There is no pattern. It is 100% unique and unpredictable. This chaotic, desperate movement triggers a primal predatory instinct in a fish that no mechanical lure can ever truly replicate. The old-timer knows this. He's not presenting a lure. He's presenting life and death in its rawest form. This next point is crucial, and it has absolutely nothing to do with what's on the end of the line. It's about reading the water. That old-timer has likely been fishing that same body of water for 40 or 50 years. He's not just randomly casting, he's looking at the world around him. He sees the way the wind creates a current against a specific point. He knows there's a submerged log 10 feet to the left of that fallen tree. He remembers that during this time of year, on an overcast day, the crappie stack up on that deep ledge you can't even see. His brain is a living, breathing topographical map of that lake or river bottom. While you're busy trying to decide between a fire tiger or a sexy shad-colored lure, he has already processed 1,000 tiny environmental cues and placed his worm exactly where he knows a fish is likely to be waiting. The worm is just the final part of the equation. His true weapon is decades of observation and knowledge. Your expensive lure is a tool searching for a fish. His simple worm is a delivery system for a fish he has already found. Let's examine the fundamental difference in mindset. Modern lure fishing, for the most part, is an active pursuit. It's about casting and retrieving, covering water, constantly doing something. We get impatient. If we don't get a bite in 5 casts, we move. We switch lures. We feel like if we aren't actively working the lure, we aren't fishing. We've been conditioned to believe that action equals results. Now, look at the old-timer. He casts his worm out, lets it settle on the bottom, and then he waits. This isn't passive laziness. It's a deliberate strategy. It's the ultimate game of patience. He understands that fish have their own schedule. They have feeding windows. His job isn't to force a bite from an inactive fish. His job is to have the most tempting meal possible, waiting in the most likely spot for when a fish decides it's ready to eat. While you are frantically trying to trigger a reaction strike with your fast-moving lure, he is calmly waiting to intercept a fish that is naturally looking for food. It's the difference between a door-to-door salesman and a restaurant that simply opens its doors and waits for hungry customers. Building on the idea of reading the water is something even deeper, true local knowledge. This goes beyond just knowing the spots. The old-timer knows the very soul of that water. He knows that the bass in this particular pond completely ignore topwater lures until the water temperature hits exactly 72 degrees. He knows that the catfish only bite on chicken livers after a heavy rain, when the creek mouth gets muddy. He knows the specific type of dragonfly that hatches in June, and that the bluegill go crazy for a fly that imitates it. This isn't information you can find on a YouTube video or a fishing forum. This knowledge is earned through thousands of hours of trial, error, and quiet observation. It's a library of data stored in his head. So when you see him using a worm, it's not because it's the only thing he knows how to use. It's because his vast internal database has told him that for these specific conditions, on this specific day, a worm is the single most effective tool for the job. You're guessing with your $20 lure. He is making a calculated decision based on a lifetime of research. Now, let's consider the engineering of the presentation. Your modern lure setup involves a lure with 2 or 3 treble hooks, a snap swivel, a leader, and your main line. There are multiple points of potential failure and multiple components that can look unnatural to a fish. It's a complex system. The old-timer's rig, it's often just a line, a simple hook, and maybe a small split-shot weight. That's it. This profound simplicity is a form of genius. By reducing the number of variables, he increases the naturalness of the presentation and decreases the chances of something going wrong. There are fewer knots to fail, less hardware to spook a wary fish, and a more direct connection to the bait. When a fish picks up his worm, it feels natural. There isn't an awkward, heavy plastic body or a tangle of treble hooks. It just feels like food. In our quest for technological advancement, we often overcomplicate things. The old-timer reminds us that sometimes the simplest solution is the most effective one, because there's less to get in the way of what matters, a natural presentation. This might sound a bit out there, but let's talk about confidence. Think about it. The old-timer doesn't have a tackle box full of options to second-guess himself with. He has his can of worms. He knows they work. He has 100% unshakable confidence in his method because it has worked for him for 50 years. This confidence translates directly into his fishing. He fishes with more patience. He's more deliberate. He's not constantly thinking, maybe I should switch to the spinnerbait or the drop shot. He's focused. You, on the other hand, with your box of 150 lures, are constantly in a state of doubt. After 10 minutes with no bites, you start to question your lure choice. The doubt creeps in. This lack of confidence makes you fish faster, less methodically, and ultimately less effectively. The old-timer isn't just fishing with a worm, he's fishing with the power of absolute certainty. It's a mental edge that is far more valuable than any piece of tackle you can buy. He expects to catch a fish, you are just hoping to. Let's get scientific for a moment and consider the senses of a fish. Fish primarily rely on 3 senses to hunt: sight, vibration, and smell. Your expensive lure is designed to appeal, almost exclusively, to 1 or 2 of these. A brightly colored crankbait is a visual trigger. A rattling lipless crankbait appeals to sight and vibration, thanks to the sound it makes. But very few lures effectively target all 3 senses at once, especially the most primal one, smell. A live worm, however, is the total package. It can be seen wiggling on the bottom, sight. Its desperate struggles send out subtle natural vibrations that a fish's lateral line can detect, vibration. And as we've discussed, it leaches a powerful, irresistible scent trail into the water, smell. It is a trifecta of sensory triggers. The old-timer's simple worm is, from a fish's perspective, a multisensory explosion that is almost impossible to ignore. Your specialized $20 lure is often just a one-trick pony trying to get by on looks alone. The worm is the complete package. One of the most common pieces of advice in fishing is to match the hatch. This means using a lure that imitates the natural food source or forage base of the fish in that body of water. Anglers spend a fortune on lures that look exactly like a specific species of shiner or crawfish or shad. And it's a great theory. But let's be brutally honest for a second. Take a look in the water. What do fish in most lakes and ponds actually eat on a daily basis? They eat insects, larvae, leeches, crayfish, and yes, worms that get washed into the water after a rain. The natural forage base is often small, brown, and wiggly. It looks a lot more like a common earthworm than it does a 6-inch, triple-jointed swim bait painted like a rainbow trout. The old-timer isn't trying to imitate one specific, exotic meal. He is presenting the fish with a food source that is universally recognized and accepted. He is matching the real hatch, not the one we see in glossy fishing catalogs. Think about the approach. Picture the scene again. You arrive at the lake, slam your truck door, stomp down to the bank, and immediately start launching casts 100 feet out into the water. Your presence is announced with noise and vibration. Fish, especially in shallow water, can feel those vibrations through the ground and their lateral line. They know you're there long before your lure ever hits the water. Now, watch the old-timer. He moves slowly. He doesn't slam doors. He walks softly to the water's edge. His movements are deliberate and quiet. He doesn't make 100 bombastic casts. He makes a few gentle targeted pitches or lobs into key areas. He understands that stealth is a weapon. He becomes part of the environment instead of an intruder. The most effective lure in the world is useless if you've already spooked every fish within a 50-yard radius. The old-timer catches fish before he even makes a cast, simply by respecting their environment and approaching with a hunter's mindset, not an invader's. Let's bust a popular myth. We often assume that fish are brilliant, calculating hunters that will only strike a perfect imitation of their natural prey. Sometimes that's true, especially with highly pressured trout in clear water. But most of the time, fish are opportunistic feeders. They are lazy. They are looking for the easiest possible meal that provides the most energy. Think about it from their perspective. Chasing down a healthy, fast-moving shad takes a lot of effort. It might get away. But a helpless, struggling worm sitting on the bottom? That is the definition of a low-risk, high-reward meal. It's the fish equivalent of a free lunch. The old-timer's worm doesn't necessarily trick the fish into thinking it's something else. It simply presents an offering so easy and tempting that the fish's opportunistic nature takes over. It's not about deception, it's about pure, undeniable temptation. Your fancy lure might be a challenge, the worm is a giveaway. We need to talk about the gear itself. You have a 7-foot extra-fast action rod made of high-modulus graphite. It's incredibly sensitive, right? It's designed to transmit the slightest tick of your lure hitting a rock. But this hypersensitivity can be a disadvantage when fishing with bait. When a fish, especially a finicky one, picks up a natural bait like a worm, it often mouths it gently at first. It might pick it up and slowly swim off with it. On your ultra-stiff, sensitive rod, you feel that tiny tick and immediately set the hook, ripping the worm right out of the fish's mouth. The old-timer with his softer, often fiberglass rod might not even feel that initial tiny bite. Instead, he watches his line. He sees the line start to slowly move sideways. This less sensitive rod allows the fish to fully take the bait without feeling unnatural resistance, giving the old-timer the perfect moment to set the hook. Your high-tech gear might actually be making you too fast on the draw, causing you to miss the very bites you're trying to detect. There is no substitute for time on the water. It's a simple, hard truth. That old-timer has been there at dawn, at noon, at dusk, and in the middle of the night. He's fished in the blistering heat, the pouring rain, and the freezing cold. Through this sheer volume of experience, he has developed an internal clock, a sixth sense, for when the fish will be active. He knows that the 30-minute window, right as the sun sets behind that specific hill, is when the big ones come out to feed. He knows that after 3 straight days of high pressure, the bite will be tough until a front moves in. While you are trying to fit your fishing into a 2-hour slot on a Saturday afternoon, he is structuring his day around the fish's schedule. He isn't just fishing when he has time, he is fishing when it is the right time. So when you see him catching fish, you might have just stumbled into his perfectly timed feeding window, a window he knew was coming all along. Let's dig deeper into the environment, specifically weather and barometric pressure. Modern anglers have apps for this. We can look at our phones and see that the barometer is falling at a rate of 0.05 per hour. We use this data to make decisions. The old-timer doesn't need an app. He feels it in his bones. He can feel the change in humidity. He can see the type of clouds forming on the horizon. He can smell the rain in the air. He has a lifetime of correlating these natural signs with fish behavior. He knows that a steady, high-pressure system for days means the fish will be deep and lethargic, so he'll fish his worm low and slow. He knows that a rapidly falling barometer ahead of a storm often triggers a feeding frenzy, so he makes sure he's on the water. His connection to the natural world is his greatest tool. He is not just an observer of nature, he is a part of it. He is reacting to the same environmental triggers as the fish themselves. We often hear the phrase, "presentation is everything," but we usually associate it with complex lure techniques. The truth is, it's even more critical with live bait. Anyone can put a worm on a hook and cast it out. But the old-timer's presentation is a work of art. Watch closely. He might hook the worm through the middle, so both ends wiggle freely. He might use a smaller hook so it's less visible. He might not use any weight at all, letting the worm drift down through the water column as naturally as possible. He understands that the goal is to make that worm look like it got there by accident. He is painstakingly trying to erase any evidence of his own involvement. You, with your $20 lure, are announcing your presence with every cast. The old-timer is doing the exact opposite. He is trying to become invisible, leaving only a perfect, natural offering in his place. The difference is subtle, but to a wary fish, it's everything. There's a critical distinction to be made between being a lure collector and a fish catcher. Many of us, and let's be honest here, have become lure collectors. We enjoy buying them, organizing them in our fancy tackle boxes, and talking about them with our friends. The act of acquiring the gear has become part of the hobby itself. There's nothing wrong with that, but it can distract from the ultimate goal, catching fish. The old-timer is not a collector. He has one goal, and one goal only. He is there to put fish on the bank. His tools are minimal and time-tested. He has mastered his simple setup, while many of us have become a jack of all trades and a master of none with our endless array of lures. Ask yourself this question. Are you spending more time managing your gear than you are studying the fish? The old-timer has his priorities straight. He's a fish catcher, first and foremost. Think about how you fish a promising-looking spot, like a fallen tree in the water. If you're like most modern anglers, you'll probably bombard it. You'll make a dozen casts with a spinnerbait. Then, if that doesn't work, you'll make another dozen with a crankbait. Then you'll switch to a plastic worm and hit it again. You are carpet bombing the area with sound, vibration, and unnatural objects. Now, watch the old-timer. He approaches the same spot. He makes one, maybe two, perfect casts with his worm. He lets it sit. He gives the fish time to find it and commit to it. If he doesn't get a bite, he quietly moves on. He understands that the best fish in a spot are often the most cautious. By hitting the area with a relentless assault of lures, you might catch an aggressive young fish, but you will almost certainly spook the older, wiser trophy fish. The old-timer's quiet, patient approach gives him a much better chance at fooling that big one. Less is almost always more. Let's consider the universal appeal of the worm. Your expensive, specialized lure is often designed to target a specific species of a specific size. A giant 8-inch swim bait is great for monster largemouth bass, but a bluegill or a crappie won't even look at it. A tiny crappie jig is perfect for panfish, but a big catfish will likely ignore it. Your lure choice immediately narrows down your potential list of catches. A worm, however, is the universal language of food in the underwater world. A bass will eat it. A catfish will eat it. A bluegill, a perch, a trout, a carp. Pretty much anything with fins and a mouth will eagerly eat an earthworm. The old-timer isn't just targeting one species. He is putting out an open invitation to every fish in the area. This dramatically increases his odds of getting a bite. While you are waiting for that one specific type of fish to notice your highly specialized lure, he is in a conversation with the entire aquatic ecosystem. It's time to face the hard truth about the fishing industry. It's a business. Their goal is to sell you products. And it's much easier to sell a new, shiny $20 lure with promises of revolutionary action than it is to sell a 50-cent worm and the concept of patience. We have been caught in a brilliant marketing trap. We've been convinced that success can be bought in a plastic package. We've been led to believe that the secret to catching more fish is always the next big thing. The old-timer exists completely outside of this marketing hype. He is the living proof that the foundational principles of fishing, knowledge, patience, and presenting a natural food source have not changed in thousands of years. He has not bought into the solution, he has embodied it. He is a reminder that fishing is a skill, a craft, not a shopping spree. The greatest tool in his arsenal is his mind, not his wallet. So what is the final, ultimate secret? It's that there is no single secret. It's not just the scent. It's not just the patience. It's not just the local knowledge. It is the sum of all these parts, working in perfect harmony. It is the quiet approach, combined with the deep understanding of the environment, combined with the confidence in a simple method, combined with the perfect natural presentation of a universally accepted food source. Each of these elements is a single thread, but the old-timer has woven them together over decades to create an unbreakable rope of fishing success. While you are fumbling with one or two of these threads, trying to make your expensive lure work, he is deploying a complete, holistic system. The reason the old-timer with a simple worm outfishes you is because he is not just using a different bait. He is playing an entirely different game. So, let's wrap this up. We've talked about scent, action, patience, local knowledge, and escaping the marketing trap. The shocking and for some, maybe even frustrating conclusion is this. The battle was never between the $20 lure and the $1 worm. That was a distraction. The real difference is between the angler who relies on their gear and the angler who relies on their skill and observation. That old-timer would likely outfish most people, even if you handed him your expensive lure, because he would apply his lifetime of knowledge to its presentation. The biggest revelation, the aha moment, is realizing that we've been trying to buy success instead of earning it. This changes everything. It means you can stop chasing the endless cycle of new gear. You can take a step back, simplify your approach, and start focusing on what truly matters. Learning the water, understanding the fish, and mastering the fundamentals. Your fishing journey can become one of knowledge and skill, not just acquisition. Thank you so much for watching. If this video opened your eyes or made you think, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more content that cuts through the noise. Now I want to hear from you. What is the one old-timer trick that you absolutely swear by? Or, which of these points do you think is total nonsense? Let's get a real, honest debate going in the comments below. See you on the water.